恭敬大德三听，为此法为济一切众生，经转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐。速战无伤. Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchetoye alahati san miao san buddho che. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受者，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it, and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha. Namo, quelling disasters, thing life, Medicine Master Buddha. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening 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 life, Medicine Master Buddha. Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one. Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Realm Master, and all good knowing advisors, Amitabha, welcome back. We are on lecture number 166 of our exploration of the Dharma using the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra as our foundation. So last week we were exploring what it means when the sutras mention circumambulation. We also look quite a lot at reciting sutras and what it means. And then we also began the topic of investigating and understanding sutras. And today we are going to continue with our investigation of investigating and understanding sutras, and we'll probably get on towards lecturing and explaining the Dharma. I also have a story for you, but I'm not sure how I'm going to fit it in because it has to do with making praises. Let me get you the slide that we are on right now. So this is the part of the sutra that we are explaining on. So I haven't talked about singing praises yet because there's quite a bit that's connected. And so we've done circumambulation, all right. We haven't done recall the merit and virtue of the Tathagata's past vows because that's mindfulness of the Buddha. I'm still compiling my notes on that. Read and recite the sutra we have done, okay. Ponder its meaning and lecture on and explain it. That's what we're going to look at today, okay. So as we go to that, I'm asking if anyone has any questions. I know Melinda and Ron has some questions. Does anyone else have any questions? Anyone? Okay. So Ron, are you intending to ask something, Ron? Because your
No,
microphone.
I forgot to turn off my mic.
Okay, I'll turn you off. All right. Now let's get to our sutra. We continue. This is Shufu at a Guanyin session in 1970, which is a long time ago, talking about how to investigate and understand the sutras. So Shufu says, if you cultivate but do not study, you are practicing blindly and you will never manage to cut off the affliction obstacle. Then Shufu says, if you study but do not cultivate, now this is the other extreme, you will never cut off the obstacle of what is known. So your knowledge gets in the way. Okay. So the first one, you cultivate but you don't study. So most people are like this. Most people practice. They do a lot of practice. They have the morning practice, evening practice. They come to the temple, they bow, they recite sutras. Shiva says, if you don't study, that means if you don't know what you're doing, you're practicing blindly. So what happens when you practice blindly? You have afflictions, but you don't know how to end your afflictions. You don't know the cause of your suffering. Why? Because you don't understand the Dharma. You are practicing the form of the practice, but you're not really practicing because the Dharma is to be found in the mind, but you're using your body and your mouth to practice instead. So it's kind of like, someone like that is, imagine if you have a life-threatening illness or you have an illness, okay, you're sick, and then you go and see a doctor, but this doctor hasn't been to school. He has never studied medicine, okay, but he has a lot of, he follows a lot of doctors, so he sees what other doctors do, but he doesn't understand what they're doing. He just sees what they do and he can, imitate them perfectly. Just like bowing, you may not understand bowing, but you can bow like you have been bowing for 1,000 years, because you can. So this doctor, so-called doctor, all right, he can do a lot of things if you tell him exactly what needs to be done. So it's like an expert. If there's a doctor guiding him, telling him, okay, now you cut this and then you take this out and then you tie it up, he can do all that. But he doesn't have any wisdom. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know the reason behind why the things that the doctors do. Okay, so that's what that means. So Shifu says, if you can't cut off the affliction obstacle, you still have a self. And if you can't cut off the obstacle of what is known, which is if you only study but you never practice. So this is, say, another wannabe doctor who has read all the medical books, has memorized all the books, but has never treated a single patient before, but thinks that he knows best. There's two extremes. Shiva says you still have dharmas. If you have dharmas, then you have the dharma attachment. If you have a self, you have the self-attachment, and you have not realized that basically self and dharmas are empty. In other words, this is not the right way, okay, in Buddhism. And Shiva says, therefore, must combine study and practice. The understanding derived from study aids us in our practice, and practice aids us in our study. They harmonize. You shouldn't cultivate your whole life away and then find that when someone asks you how to explain the sentence of Dharma, you don't know what to say. Okay, just give me a moment. Someone has just message me that they cannot get to today's class. Okay, just give me a second. Let me find out where is my Zoom link. Sorry about this. Okay, just hold on one. Where's my Zoom? Okay. Okay, done. Sorry about that. Okay, where were we? All right, then Shofu says, they harmonize. You shouldn't cultivate your whole life away, then find that when someone asks you how to explain a sentence of Dharma, you don't know what to say. Okay, this is for the person that very, very vigorous, okay, immerse themselves in Buddhist practices, but doesn't really understand what's going on, can't even explain what they're doing. If you, this is one of the reasons why young people find it hard to access Buddhism, because there's a lot of doing, but there's a huge lack of understanding. So not good. Then, but then Shufu says, on the other hand, you shouldn't simply study and listen to a lot of lectures on the sutras and then find that when someone asks you how to cultivate, you're speechless. So you know a lot about repentance ceremonies, but you've never actually been to a repentance ceremony before. You've never repented before, but you can, explain until the cows come home about what repentance is, but it's useless because you have no skill, no kung fu. Then Shuvu says, now in this world, I ask you again, who are the most stupid people and who are the most intelligent? I'll tell you, the stupidest people are those who do not study the Dharma, who do not believe in the Dharma. The most intelligent people are their opposites. They are the ones who like to study the Buddha Dharma, who like to believe in the Dharma. These are the most intelligent people. Why is Shuvu saying this? Well, it's people who understand the Dharma learn about cause and effect. They learn about wholesome deeds and unwholesome deeds. And they choose to perform wholesome deeds. Why? Because they know that they are planting seeds for their present and future happiness. Whereas people who don't understand cause and effect, they recklessly do things only to suffer the consequences in the present or the future without even understanding why they have to undergo those results. So you're blind. It's like you have 4 or 5 glasses in front of you, all filled with something that looks like water, but you have no idea, no knowledge whether is one glass really water, or is one glass containing bleach, and you can't tell the difference, or another glass containing acid, just like that. So you end up harming yourself because you drink the wrong drink. Okay, then Shofu says that is the reason why a few days ago I called you all good knowing advisors, and afterwards when I certify you, you will be genuine good knowing advisors. So I never knew until a few days ago why I myself, I just blindly follow Shufu and the other monks and nuns at DRBA who whenever they in the beginning of a lecture they say, oh, all good knowing advisors, all wise knowing advisors. I never knew why, but now I know. Shufu is explaining. Shufu says this is not merely casually giving you a name, calling you good knowing advisors. It's because you want to study the Dharma, because you have faith. Faith here means confidence, that I can call you all good knowing advisors. In the 6th Petrak Sutra, the 6th Petrak called everyone who sat beneath his Dharma seat to hear the Dharma a good knowing advisor. He considered everyone a good knowing advisor. When you study the Dharma, you have to be able to apply it to yourself. If you can't use it, then no matter how long you study it, the Buddha Dharma will still be the Buddha Dharma and you will still be you. But if you can use it, then you can unite with the Buddha Dharma or the Dharma, and you cannot be separated from the Dharma. So this is, if you remember, I always speak about principles and specifics. When you read the sutras explain principles. And then sometimes the Buddha provides metaphors or similes. The Buddha is trying to explain the meaning of the principle in a simile. But it is up to us in order for us to understand the principle by applying it in our everyday lives. Because if we don't, the sutras remain the sutra. It is not the Dharma until it is reflected, you connect it to your everyday experience. Okay, just like those, for example, the prince, the Buddha in his past, not in past life, the Buddha before he became the Buddha, he was the prince, and he snuck out of the palace, and he saw what are known as the messengers, a dead body, a sick person, old person, and then he saw a mendicant, which was a monk, which did not really exist at that time. It was all four things that he witnessed were actually gods from, I can't remember which heaven, I think it was a pure abbot's heaven. The gods came and manifested, they created a transformation body, or they manifested themselves in that way so that the Buddha could see. So that's one example of how come the Buddha, when he saw those four messengers, it had such an impact on the Buddha. But we are surrounded daily by these things. These are not unknown subjects to us. You know, we know people who have passed away. We have attended funerals. We have been sick ourselves, and we have seen people who are sick. You know, but it does not have the same impact on us. Because why? Because our perspective is different. For some of us, we just take it as part and parcel of life. For some of us, we say, oh, you know, it's unavoidable. We can't do anything about it. For some people, they don't want to think about things like that. Whereas for the Buddha, as the prince, it was different. He saw it and he realized, how can he keep living his life if everything is governed by impermanence? You know, what kind of happiness do you get when your happiness depends on something that is not permanent, that is going to break down or change? So that was why the Buddha, that's how he became the Buddha. All right? Okay. Now we go to Shufu's commentary in the Amitabha Sutra. Shufu says, if you can sleep when people hit you and let their spit dry on your face, this is the perfection of patience. If you do not understand this, I'm just going to say Dharma from now on instead of Buddha Dharma. It means the same thing. What Dharma do you study? You study day in and day out, but when this happens, you don't know what Dharma it is. If someone hits you to test your skill, you probably end up saying, I've studied the Dharma for so long, why can't I use it when the time comes? So some people, again, all right, when you mistake the practice for the, when you mistake doing the practice as the actual practice, then this applies to you. Okay, because there are, if you read the Sixth Petra Sutra, the Sixth Petra is always poking holes at people's attachments because they get attached to the practice. They recite like last week, they recite the Lotus Sutra 3,000 times, but still they have arrogance. Some people have anger. Some people have lack of patience. Some people have jealousy. True cultivation, or any practice that you do, should lead to a reduction of all those unwholesome habits. Okay. Excuse me. Shufu is saying, sutras are lectured and Dharma is taught only to teach you one thing. Have no unclean, impure thoughts. Have no sexual desire. Shufu says, without sexual desire, you are one of the clear, pure, ocean-wide assembly of bodhisattvas. With sexual desire, you are a ghostly living being of the 5 Tibet realms. Cultivation and non-cultivation are right here. If you can purify your mind, your merit and virtue are limitless. If you cannot purify your mind, your offenses are limitless. Offenses are created from impure thoughts. Such thoughts are causes planted in your self-nature and they result in a manifestation of offenses and evil. Okay, this last sentence, I'm going to ask Madalena to, not Madalena, Melinda to take note of it, okay, because it has to do with your question. All right, now, speaking of questions, I have a question which I'm going to ask to translate so I can understand what's being asked of me. So I know if I need to address it as I'm speaking. Just give me a moment. I'm using ChatGPT to translate. Okay, this is the same question from last week. Okay. Yeah, this is the same question from last week, and so my answer is still the same, so I will not answer the question this week. Okay. Because my answer is exactly the same as what will be exactly the same as what I said last week. Okay. Now, Shiva says, but if your self-nature is pure, outwardly there will be no evil karmic retribution. Okay, maybe this has to do with today's question in Chinese. All right. Therefore, you may study the Buddha, the Dharma for several tens of thousands of great kalpas, but unless you understand the genuine doctrine, you won't get off the revolving wheel. If you understand the essential message of the Dharma, however, you will know, oh, it is simply a matter of purifying my mind and will. Okay, if you know that, then you know how to use the practice, the physical form of the practice, like bowing, like reciting sutras, or engaging in repentance ceremonies. You know how to engage your mind during those ceremonies, not just your body. Shiva says this point is not easy to understand. If you want to be clear about this doctrine, do not fear suffering or difficulty. Work hard. You can't just study for 2.5 days and think that you have mastered the work. You can't stop listening to sutras or reciting the Buddha's name. Okay, so all of you, okay, you have to continue coming back to this sutra lecture week after week. Okay, it doesn't come from me, it comes directly from Shufu. So Shufu gives the 4 vows. Okay, Shufu says, these are the 4 great Mahayana vows. I vow to save the limitless living beings. I vow to cut off the various afflictions. I vow to study the immeasurable Dharma doors, and I vow to realize the supreme Buddha way. Okay, just give me a moment. I need to take some cough syrup. It's strange. I am actually getting a lot better than my coughing. Like the past few days, as the Veno for the morning and evening ceremonies, I hardly cough, but I don't know why when I lecture, the cough comes back. Okay, now this is Shufu on the same topic, but from a different Dharma talk. This is taken from the book Listen to Yourself, Think Everything Over. I think there are 3 such books. This is the one on Chan. Shufu says, those of you who study the Dharma should truly renounce everything. Okay, step by step, all right? So if you have kindness, compassion, joy, and giving, these are known as the 4 Brahma Viharas. The 4 boundless minds, then you can work in response with the way. In studying the Dharma, the most important thing is to cut off one's bad habits and faults. It does not matter how many sutras you have heard or how long you have studied the Dharma. If you can't get rid of your bad habits and faults, it is of no help to you. Okay, you got that? The whole point of practice and study is transform ourselves. Okay? The whole point. It's not about, oh, I've recited 10,000 times or I bowed, 30,000 times. It's not that at all. If you haven't transformed yourself, then you are just, it's like doing an exercise. You exert yourself, but in the Shurangama Sutra, the Buddha says you are boiling sand hoping to get rice. No matter how vigorous you are at boiling the sand, you can stare at the pot unblinking, for 10 minutes without blinking, without moving your position, enduring the pain from your legs and all that, doing whatever it is, okay, collecting firewood to make the fire because you think gas fire is not sincere enough, you want to build your own fire. After an eon, it will still be sand. It will never turn into rice. Okay, that's the principle. Shifu says you're always looking at others' faults, then you haven't put an end to your own suffering. So this is one metric that you can use to see if your cultivation is getting better or not. If you progress, this is a mirror towards yourself. So if you're always complaining, gossiping, looking at the bad side of other people, then you still got a long way to go. Or that's where you want to practice. Shifu says, if you aren't looking for one person's faults, then you're looking for another person's faults. And if you don't feel that this isn't good, then you think that something else isn't quite right. If you are looking for other people's faults, you haven't put an end to your own suffering. But if you can keep from being that way, you will be truly studying the Dharma. How is this like? How do you make sense of this? Well, it's kind of like if you don't steal, okay, for someone who genuinely does not steal, they never even entertain thoughts of, they're never jealous of other people's things. They never feel as if they're lacking. So they never have any thoughts of wanting to steal. People like that will be less suspicious of people trying to, they'll be less suspicious of their own things getting stolen. But someone who is a thief, for example, who always is on the lookout to steal people's things, people like that are very suspicious of other people and very protective of their belongings. Why? Because that's their nature. That's how their mind is. Okay, so that's one way of understanding how not looking at other people's faults is an indicator of your progress in your practice. Now, Shofu says, wait, let me see, is this a different... oh yeah, now we are moving to same topic, but this is taken from a different Dharma talk by Shofu. You can find it from the publication called our BTTS publication, Herein Lies the Treasure Trove, in volume 2. Okay, now Alec has a question. Oh, Alec, glad that you're back with us. For Brahma Vihara, 4 boundless minds, yes, correct. It depends on the translation. Some people call it the 4 boundless minds. It's literally translated as the abode of the gods, because that's in the first dhyana heaven onwards. That's how the gods behave. So that's why it's called abode of the gods. And some other translations might be slightly different, but they're all the same thing. Okay, here Shufu talks about, she says, the Buddha's wisdom light shines upon the minds of all living beings everywhere. This light enlightens the minds of living beings and dispels their greed, anger, and stupidity, otherwise known as the 3 poisons. It transforms that darkness into brightness and eradicates the 84,000 bad habits of living beings. 84,000 is a number that when you see in Buddhism, it means infinite. Okay, it's just a way of saying infinite, endless. The purpose of studying the Dharma is to dispel the darkness, but you shouldn't be attached to the idea of the Buddha's light and ask, why haven't I seen the Buddha's light? Sometimes, some people in meditation, they can see light. Yeah. Or also, if they see things and their eyes are closed, it's kind of like, I think the best way to describe would be absence of shadows. It's like what you see has no shadow. But anyway, why I'm explaining this is because there's a very funny incident. I think it was probably Ajahn Chah from the Thai forest tradition, who the Thai forest monks, they have this what do you call, I'm not sure if they do it at all the wats or the monasteries, but they do gather and exchange stories about their experiences when they meditate, because meditation is their main practice. So there are stories where the young monks always gather around the older monks, and they can ask questions about their own meditative experiences, and then the older monks will guide them. So one of the Dhamma talks given by Ajahn Chah, he was trying to get people to be not attached to states, like seeing light. So he said, you all want to see light? He said, in your meditation, some of you are interested in seeing light. You all want to see light? Then he pointed to the fluorescent light on the ceiling. He says, you want to see light? That's your light. Now, okay. So that's the story. Okay, now Shufu says, if you investigate the Dharma and develop wisdom, isn't that just the Buddha's light? The manifestation of your own wisdom light is the Buddha's light shining everywhere. If your wisdom light does not manifest, then the Buddha's light does not shine everywhere. Okay? She says, it's essential after leaving home to avoid seeking fame and self-benefit. Instead, set your feet squarely on solid ground and cultivate. Nurture blessings and wisdom. Again, blessings and wisdom both. To cultivate blessings, be helpful and beneficial towards others. Although Shufu is talking to the monastics here, but the principle applies to everyone. And to cultivate wisdom, study and investigate the sutras. So it's not just recite the sutras or read the sutras. Okay, it is study and investigate. Okay, I've been having issues with my internet. I'm not sure why. I just got a message on my screen. It says my internet may be unstable. Can you all hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Can someone respond if you can hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah, very
Okay,
clear.
thank you.
Very
Thank you
clear.
so much. Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. Thank you, y'all. Thank you, all of you. Okay, and then Shufu says, a thorough investigation of the sutras will nurture your wisdom, and by constantly benefiting other people, your blessing and virtue will naturally increase. Okay, so that's how we should be as Buddhists. Okay, now let me, the next slide is empty. Okay, now we are going to talk about lecturing and explaining the Dharma. Okay, this is connected. Why is this connected? Well, it's because what do you do after you investigate the sutras? You don't want to be selfish and keep the knowledge that you gain for yourself, because number one, you don't know if your understanding is correct until you share. Okay, so that's why a lot of people are afraid to share what they know about the Dharma, because they don't want to be seen as wrong. But if you don't know if you're wrong or right, then how do you actually practice? Because if you don't know if you're wrong or right, it leads to doubt. And doubt is one of the main hindrances on the path. Because if someone says something, you don't know if the person is right, or you are right, or the person is wrong, or you are wrong. So it leads to doubt instead. And doubt is the first thing you want to eliminate. That's why we always talk about, the sutras always talk about faith or confidence. That eliminates doubt. Okay, so now we are here. I'm going back to our sutra text. Look at the first paragraph, last sentence. Read and recite the sutra, ponder its meaning, and lecture on and explain it. So we are now on the topic of lecturing and explaining the sutra. Okay, now let me get back to here. So this is Shofu on June 24th, 1985. You can find this in the book Talks on Dharma, Volume 11. Shiva says to attain true wisdom, you must put an end to desire. From now on, you should talk and I will listen. Okay, Shiva is talking to the audience right now, not just to the monks and the nuns, but to everyone. And Shiva says, why? He says, this will give you a chance to discover the treasures in the wisdom mind of your own nature. It's only fair that we take the gold, silver, diamonds, mother of pearl, carnelian, jade, and so on out of the mind for people to see and admire. Otherwise, no one will know what you have in your treasure trove. This lecture series on the Nirvana Sutra is called the Buddha Dharma Study Class. Whether you are a left-home person or a lay person, you should all be eager to come up and speak. Okay, so Shifu is forcing people to speak. Now, in this passage, Shifu talks about precious things, jewels, gold, silver, diamonds. Now, when you come across the sutra and they talk about precious things, it doesn't mean, it talks about like gold, literally gold, silver, and there are stories where they talk about travelers who, I think this is in the not pure conduct chapter, pure conduct chapter of the Lotus Sutra, where it talks about Guanyin Bodhisattva, and there's a passage that says that if you cross the seas, the treacherous seas, to look for precious things. If you call Guanyin Bodhisattva's name, you will not capsize or you will be safe, something like that. It's not talking about you actually going for treasure. Okay, the treasure that you are seeking comes from the results of your practice. It's usually 7 treasures. Okay, the 7 treasures can be interpreted in different ways depending on the context that's used in the text. Sometimes it refers to the 37 factors of enlightenment or the 37 limbs of awakening, depending on who is doing the translation. And that's part of Melinda's question. You know what? Let me show you that slide right now so I can answer Melinda's question and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Okay, not kill, we don't kill, but you know what I mean. When it talks about the 7 gems, like for example, the Pure Land, okay, 7 railings, 7 tiers of these 7, it's all number 7. One way of understanding the 7 is through these groups. You see there, 1 to 7. That's how the 37 wings or the 37 limbs of enlightenment is arranged. So there's 4 applications of mindfulness. These are, if you want to go into detail, let me know. I have a book by one of the monks that explains all of this and with all the relevant sutras. Oh yeah, I forgot. What are the 37 wings of awakening or limbs to awakening or factors of enlightenment? It is the entire Pali Canon. Okay, the Buddha himself, after teaching all the sound hearers, all the arhats, everything they needed to end birth and death, he listed them in this form, in these 37 things. So the 37 limbs, if it was to understand the 37 limbs of enlightenment, you have to study the Pali Canon, which is what you study when you go to the Pure Land, Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land. So the group is 4 applications of mindfulness, the 4 right exertions, the 4 bases of miraculous powers, the 5 powers, the 5 strengths, the 7 elements, and the Noble Eightfold Path in groups of 7. So these are the 7 treasures that when you hear the sutras talk about treasures, now you know what it refers to. Now, what you see on your screen is slightly different from the way it is explained in the Theravada text, because the parts that you see in brackets, for example, the lesser part of accumulation, intermediate part of accumulation, and then, for example, the last one, the number 7, Noble Eightfold Path, is the brackets represent the attainments that you get corresponding to the group of the wings of enlightenment. Okay, but this bracket explanation is only found in Mahayana. In the Theravada, they don't connect it to that path, because the Bhumi, for example, is the Bodhisattva path. Is the path that Bodhisattvas walk from the first ground onwards. Bhumi means ground, so first ground and then up to the 10th ground. Okay, so you see in the brackets the Mahayana explanation of expanding the 37 wings of enlightenment, or the 37 factors of enlightenment. If you find in the Theravada suttas, they don't have that. Okay, but it's the same thing. Okay, the principle is the same. So Melinda, you add them all up, you get 37. And the reason why Melinda's question is this. Melinda says that in the Amitabha Sutra, it talks about the 5 roots, the 5 powers, the 7 bodhi shares, each sagely way shares. And that's it. And so her question is, it does not add up to 37. Well, the Amitabha Sutra is a Mahayana text. Okay, and being a Mahayana text, it's not going to go into the basics of the 37 wings of enlightenment. Why? Because when you study Mahayana text, the Mahayana text is like college textbook. The college textbook is not going to teach you how to add 1 plus 1, how to solve an equation, what is 10 times 10. They don't teach you that. They go into I don't know what they go into, maths, like calculus and advanced calculus, or whatever it is that people study maths. But they don't teach you the basics. Why? Because you're supposed to have learned the basics before you open the college textbook, step by step. So that's why there's a saying, they say, like the Shurangama Sutra is known as Yogacara text, says you study 6 years of Abhidharma followed by 2 years of Yogacara. So Abhidharma is Buddhist psychology. Abhidharma belongs to the Theravada school, and then when you study Buddhist psychology in the Mahayana school, it's known as Yogacara. So if you study the Yogacara school straight away, you can, but you have to work really, really hard to understand. Why? Because you don't have the foundation. So sometimes you can get easily confused. But if you have a solid foundation of the Theravada or the Pali suttas, you have to get the Abhidharma text. Then when you study the Yogacara text, you know what's going on. You can link the different principles. When they talk about awareness, you're not confused that awareness means this, or a lot of people, when they study the Shurangama, they think that, consciousness might be enlightenment, or where do we come from? If we are originally pure, how come, this or that? They confuse pureness with enlightenment of the Buddhas and all that. But if you have the background of the Abhidharma, you will be less confused by that. Okay, I hope I haven't confused you all. All right, so Saha says that should say mind instead of M-I-N-E, mind. Okay, let's go back to the text. Saha, which slide are you referring to?
It's this one, Dharma Master. This will give you a chance to discover the treasure in the wisdom mind instead of mind. Am I correct or am I wrong?
Oh, I think I have to check the actual text. I had the same question, but I forgot to check. But either way, it works. Okay, either way it works. You can say it's the wisdom M-I-N-D, mind of your own nature. That works as well. You could say it because you're looking for treasure. Where do you find the treasure? You mine gold, you go into the mine to look for treasure. That works as well. So I think either way works. Okay. Now, again, coming back, coming back to treasure. Sometimes when they talk about the 7 treasures, they if you look at the Earth Store Sutra, Shifu explains the 7 treasures. The first one is faith or confidence. Okay, that's the first treasure you need. The second one is precepts or discipline or virtue. Number 3 is erudition or learning, which is what we are doing right now, learning from the sutras. Number 4 is renunciation or generosity, or otherwise known as giving. So far we have the 4 treasures. Number 5 is wisdom, which is a result of proper practice and proper reflection. Number 6 is a sense of shame or decency. That means you know the difference between wholesome and unwholesome karmic acts, and you have this inner voice that prevents you from performing unwholesome karmic acts. And then number 7 is remorse. And remorse sometimes goes along with shame. Why? This allows you to overcome any, say you can't help, say you've taken the 5 precepts, but your habit of lying is strong, that you lie before you even know it, okay? So remorse is where you feel bad for your karmic habits, but you don't beat yourself up over it. You say, okay, next time I'll try harder. So it's not about breaking or not breaking the precepts. Of course, you don't want to break the precepts, but you have to be realistic, because you are working against your karmic habits, which are going to be very strong. So you will have to understand that if you have broken the precept and you're not doing it on purpose, okay? When habits get in the way, it is not doing it on purpose, but how you say, it happens before you know it, something like that, okay? Shame and remorse will allow you to reinforce your holding of the precept. Say, you tell yourself, oh, I'm going to try harder next time. And remind yourself you need to try. Because it is only by going through that process that you undergo a transformation, until one day you realize that, hey, you don't have to remind yourself about not lying anymore, because you naturally don't lie. You stop lying. And why? Is because you had shame and remorse when you made a mistake. You recognize the mistake, you don't cover it up, and you try your best to transform. So it's a wholesome thing. Okay, so the 7 treasures or the 7 gems, or when you talk about, when Shifu says go to the Jewel Mountain and come back empty-handed, means faith or confidence in the Dharma, in the Buddha, in the Sangha, and in yourself. Okay, number 2, precepts, discipline or virtue. Number 3, erudition or learning. Number 4, renunciation or generosity or giving. Number 5, wisdom. Number 6, a sense of shame or decency. And number 7, remorse. Okay, you got that? All right, now let me see, what's the time? 8:18. Okay, let me finish this talk by Shifu, and then we'll move on to the questions. So Shifu continues, you should take studying and propagating the Dharma, giving and saving living beings as your own responsibilities. So don't think, oh, Guanyin Pusa will do it. No, Shifu says you should try your best. You must have this kind of attitude in order to qualify as a Buddhist. And today at Tenpian, we saw that, because we had celebrating Elderly's Day, and we did it last week as well as this week. And many volunteers came to help. And you could see them being very selfless, and at the same time, while they're working really hard, they were standing for many hours. They put a lot of effort in creating the programs and making sure everything went smoothly. At the same time, you could see that they were very happy. They were full of joy. Okay, so this is what it means. And Shofu says, all of you have this fine opportunity to study the Dharma. This opportunity is difficult to encounter in 1,000 years. You should take advantage of it and not pass it up. Otherwise, it would be like going to a mountain of treasures and returning empty-handed. There you go, the reference about treasures. What a pity that would be. All of you think about it. Where can you find such a pure place of practice or cultivation as this? I dare say that even if you look all over the world, you probably won't find another one. This is probably Shifu talking at the city of 10,000, speaking at the city of 10,000 Buddhas. Let me see, how many more slides do I have? Just give me a moment on this. One, two, okay. 2 more slides to go after this. She will say, since we are lucky enough to have found this place, we should concentrate on studying the Dharma and developing our talents. Why do you back out and make excuses when the time comes to give a lecture? Okay, so remember this particular Dharma talk starts with Shofu saying lay people should also not just, Shofu is fed up, it's not just him. So one of the things that happened, and I was told of this, is recorded, I think, in Vajra Bodhisi. I think there might even be a picture. And the people who were there at that time, when I went to CDTB, they told me, Shofu would kneel. Because why? No one wanted to talk. I mean, you can't blame them. Everyone would be scared, especially in front of Shofu, you know. So Shofu wanted people to speak, but no one would go up. So Shofu knelt. Shofu knelt until someone actually went up to speak. Okay, so Shofu here is saying, why do you back out and make excuses when the time comes to give a lecture? I am really disappointed. As I said before, when the first person is about to finish speaking, the second person should come up and get ready. That way we will not waste time. My intention is to give you some training and experience in propagating the Dharma, so that you can all develop unobstructed eloquence, and when the time comes to formally propagate the Buddha Dharma, you will achieve the state where, okay, what kind of state? Where flowers rain down from the heavens and golden lotuses well forth from the earth. Where does this one come from? Well, you can find it from the Shufu's commentary on, what sutra was it? Sixth Petrak Sutra, where Bodhidharma encountered the not yet, but the not yet future second Petrak of, you remember, was it last week or 2 weeks ago I shared the story? Then Shufu says, then you'll be ready to take on the mission of perpetuating the wisdom life of the Buddha. There's a saying, the teacher leads you through the door, but it is up to you to cultivate. Then Shufu talks about himself. He says, when I first started studying the Dharma, no one taught me, encouraged me, or gave me any support. I hope you will be self-reliant and keep making progress. Don't depend on others. If you think you can rely on your teacher for everything, you'll never be able to attain liberation. When we study the Dharma, we are studying true wisdom. Okay. With wisdom, we can easily resolve any problems that come up and do everything very perfectly. On the other hand, if we use our conscious mind to deal with matters, we will be hesitant and incapable of making firm decisions, and nothing we do will be successful. What is our conscious mind? That very mind that we are using right now. The mind that you're using to listen right now online, that's our conscious mind. It's a false mind. It's what we take to be ourselves, but actually it's not. Shufu says, to attain true wisdom, we must put an end to desire. How? By not fighting, not being greedy, not seeking, not being selfish, not pursuing personal advantage, and not lying. These 6 guidelines are Dharma treasures for severing desire. Oh my, excuse me, let me drink some water. They enable you to attain true wisdom so that you can contemplate and clearly analyze the conditions under which the myriad phenomena come to be. In other words, what's actually going on? What is reality? Okay, that's what Shu was talking about. You can tell right from wrong, distinguish good and evil, and never again do muddled things. All right, so I have a lot more slides about lecturing and explaining the Dharma. I guess we'll continue that next week, because we will be running out of time. Now, let me go to back to Melinda's question. Okay, Okay, before I answer the second part of Melinda's question, Ron also had a question. Ron's question was, if we make an effort to remember names of Buddhas or Bodhisattvas or kings of the heavens of the tree or similar, is that setting up an attachment? Ron, can you explain your question? As in, yeah, can you elaborate on your question?
So actually, that question popped up after I was reading Words of Wisdom. I get this email from CTTB, and I was just thinking, when we do something over and over again, like, for example, we uh, recite names and so on, recite Buddha's names, recite Bodhisattva's names. Isn't that an attachment? That's what I wanted to ask.
Okay, why would you use the word attachment to describe the practice?
Well, I'm actually trying to that popped into my mind, and I'm trying to make a distinction. Like, well, you know what? We do a lot of things over and over and over again, and those things that we do over and over again create a habit, and those habits are attachments. So why wouldn't uh, reciting, a sage's name be the same? That's what that's what I was trying to uncover.
Okay, all right. So let me see. If I were to expand your principle, then, or your question, then you could also say that, say, reciting the Buddha's name could that be also seen as an attachment, or say reciting a mantra? Would that be correct?
Yeah. I mean, like any of the mantras, you say over and over again, is you do that as part of a practice, but isn't that's a habit also, right? It falls
Okay.
in. Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. Yes. So, so that's why we need to develop wisdom, because some words have a negative aspect to it, but it needs to be taken in contextually against the situation. If it's seen in isolation, it can be easily misconstrued as a maybe unwholesome thing. So, for example, in Buddhism, we say attachments are bad. Don't get attached. Okay, let go of your desire. Don't get attached. You don't want any attachment. Yes, that's true, but it doesn't mean all attachments are bad. For example, there can be a wholesome side to attachment, or like in this case, habit forming. A lot of Buddhist practices are creating a habit. Why? Because a habit allows you to place yourself in a container. Holding the 5 precepts is also a habit. Holding the 8 precepts is also a habit, because you hold it until it becomes second nature. And what happens when it becomes second nature is you are so you plant so many karmic seeds due to it, that in your next life, when you're reborn, you don't have to go through the same effort in developing those habits again. So, for example, someone with a lot of anger issue, everything makes you angry. When the sun shines, you get angry because it's hot. When it rains, you get angry because you get wet. You're unreasonable in your anger. But then you study the Dharma, and then you learn to develop patience. Why? Because you learn that some things are just beyond your control. The only thing you can control is how you react. Okay, so this person, when the sun shines, they say, "Oh, I can't control the sun and the clouds." Okay, so he doesn't get angry anymore. When the rain comes down, he say, "I can't control the rain." I mean, I read somewhere that Shufu says it's the dragons that control the rain, but I'm not going to get angry at the dragons, because I can't even see a dragon. So he lets it go. So he develops patience. after 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, he doesn't even think about the sun or the rain anymore. Why? Because he's transformed. He doesn't have to work at it anymore. So he's patient. He has planted so many karmic seeds in respect to that in his next life, when he's born, he's a naturally patient person. And you can see this if you deal with little children. Little children are usually unfiltered. They haven't developed the sense of, they're not calculative yet, at a certain age. And you will see differences in their behavior. And where does those person traits come from? That's their karma in action. You can actually see their habits from the past lives coming up in this life. So if you develop certain habits, like you recite Om Mani Padme Hum because you want to be just like Guanyin Bodhisattva, and it's not wishful thinking, you actually investigate who is Guanyin Bodhisattva, her vows, she was a Buddha before, and what Guanyin Bodhisattva represents, and you model yourself like Guanyin Bodhisattva. And you develop loving kindness, compassion, and patience, to the extent that after many years, you have changed from who you were before, and everything you do is very close to Guanyin Bodhisattva, or as close as you can be. Those habits will carry forward in your next life, which is a very good thing. So if you see it from that point of view, that kind of attachment, that kind of habit is very wholesome. So not all attachments are bad. Not all desires are bad. If it's a desire for awakening, if it's a desire for wisdom, if it's a desire to help living beings, then yes. Okay? But of course, there's a caveat in that you don't take it to the extreme. So that's where Shofu says, study and practice go hand in hand. You must know what you're doing. As you apply what you're doing, you understand what you're doing better. And then when you go back to the text, you realize that your understanding of the text now is different. Why? Because your practice has enabled you to make the text come alive. And as you practice more, the text comes alive more and more and more. All right? So mindfulness, even of the gods, is not a... unless you have a weird attachment, you want the gods to come and do something for you or something, then I guess it's not so wholesome. But if you read the sutras, there are practices known as mindfulness. This is where the Pure Land practice comes from. So it says mindfulness of the Buddha. That's the first mindfulness. Mindfulness of the Sangha. Mindfulness of the Buddha, mindfulness of the Dharma, mindfulness of the Sangha, and the fourth one is mindfulness of the Devas or the gods. Okay, so why? Because it leads to a wholesome rebirth. Okay, so that's actually a Buddhist practice. All right. Okay. Now, Ron, does that answer your question, or does anyone have any follow-up question?
Yes, thank you, Pasha.
Okay. Alec has a question. How do we know if we are listening to the right mind? Just follow Shufu's 6 principles. Yes, that's one way. Shufu's 6 guidelines, which are based on the 5 precepts. There's actually a very good explanation. Shufu's 6 guidelines is a very good explanation from Bodhidharma. Maybe one of these days I will explain it through Bodhidharma's explanation, which is excellent. I can't do that now because I don't remember what Bodhidharma said. Anyway, so precepts, the 10 wholesome deeds, what else? The 4 Brahma Viharas and mindfulness, they all act as mirrors. What mirror? Mirror that reflects ourselves. So if you are mindful of your feelings, anytime you feel anger, jealousy, because we haven't awakened yet, we haven't crossed beyond our skandhas, not like Guanyin Bodhisattva in the Heart Sutra, illuminated the 5 skandhas and crossed beyond all suffering and difficulty. We haven't done that yet. So we are still sleeping. So anything we do is still within our dream or our conscious mind. We can't help it. So the best that we can do is to use the Dharma, which teaches us about the 4 Brahma Viharas of loving kindness, compassion, um, uh, uh, empathetic joy, which is empathetic joy is when you see other people getting good fortune, happy, you feel just as happy or more happy for them. Okay, like if you have grandchildren and your grandchildren graduate and you feel so happy for them, you know, that kind of thing. Other people's goodness make you happy. So you're never jealous. You can never get jealous of people. And the last one is equanimity. So these are the 4 Brahmaharas. Then you have the 10 wholesome deeds. You have the 5 precepts. If you use this as a way to make your decisions in life, and you're constantly mindful of how, when you apply this, how you feel back in return. That means sometimes you want to be generous, but you don't do it the right way, and then you have doubts. So you contemplate, you say, why do I have doubts? Or why, when you try to help someone, most people, okay, when we try to help people, we have conditions. We want the people to acknowledge us. We want to be recognized. We want the people to react in a certain way, to say thank you or something, you know. But when we don't get those expected responses, then we get upset. So you say, oh, I try to do good, but you know, people don't appreciate me, and you get upset. But if you're mindful and you realize what's going on, then you can find where it is in your giving or you're helping people that you go wrong. Then you can slowly transform yourself. Okay? So how do we know whether we are using our right mind? Right now, everything that we do, we are always using the false mind. We can't help it. It's just something that cannot be helped, which is why in the Earth Store Sutra it says any movement of the minds of living beings of Jambudvipa is an offense. That's just the way it is. But we can minimize those offenses by using precepts, 10 wholesome deeds, 4 Brahma Viharas. Okay, Saha talks about how by having attachment to parents. Well, I would say that a wholesome relationship with parents does not depend on how your parents treat you, but on recognizing what the Dharma says about parents, which is it is very, very difficult or impossible, almost impossible to repay the kindness of parents, putting aside our actual relationship with our parents, because that depends on many factors, on our mixed karma with them. But if we allow, let's say if you don't have a proper relationship with your parents, a wholesome relationship, what happens is, if you don't have loving kindness, you allow that unwholesomeness of the relationship to always hold you in place. You cannot move forward. You're always held back by feelings of dissatisfaction and all those unwholesome feelings. And it is very, very hard to let go, because the karmic affinities are very, very strong and very, very complicated. And it's always easy to blame the other party, or sometimes in this very life, the other party is at fault. You know, things are just that way. So it makes it very, very hard to move on. But what the Dharma teaches us is, when you allow that to happen to yourself, you hold yourself in the past, and you will never be happy. Never. Why? Because you allow the past to always control your present and therefore the future. So one of the practices of loving kindness is this. Loving kindness, you start with yourself. You tell yourself you deserve to be happy. No matter what people have done to you, you deserve happiness as well. And then through what I explained to Alec just now, holding the precepts, through if you can't repay, if you find it difficult to repay kindness to your actual parents, you do it to other people as a representative of your parents. Let's say your relationship with your parents is so difficult that It's just hard, because because that's just the way it is right now. You do it to other people as a surrogate for your parents, or you do it for your parents from your past lives. For example, you may not remember who they are, but you can still honor their kindness. So what happens is, as you do these virtuous deeds, with the recognition that you deserve happiness for yourself, and that no one should hold you back from that. You don't allow yourself to hold you back. Why? Because you're an adult. You're an adult now. You are strong enough. You don't need the past to define who you are. But at the same time, because you need to develop wholesome habits in yourself, because that's where the happiness will come from. You can't just wish for happiness for yourself and then think it will come from thin air. No, it's based on cause and effect. Okay, so you do things to give you the reason to give rise for happiness for yourself. That will enable you to grow beyond the past holding you back, because you can't change that right now. It's very, very hard to change. The only way you can change is by first changing yourself. To change the other person, that's not going to happen. They have to change themselves. Most people, they expect the relationship to be better. They try to change themselves, and then they expect the other party to change, which is totally unreasonable. It is not logical at all. It's reasonable to expect the other party to change, but it's not logical. Why? Because you can't control the other person. You don't know their karmic seeds, their karmic affinities. All right. So the only way to go past your past is, the key lies in loving kindness. And when you can generate that loving kindness for yourself, you realize that your happiness is not determined by them anymore. Okay, of course, it's easy to say, difficult to do, but you don't know. You have to try it out. Okay. All right. Now, coming to okay, wait. Saha, does that help explain, or does anyone want to share anything?
Yes, Fasher, it does help explain. Of course, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Tai, yes.
Pastor, let's say the example just now we are talking about is past life. So let's say we forgive so that we can generate kindness, happiness or kindness. Is it help forgiveness, or what do you call like repentance?
Oh, yes. Forgiveness, how you say? Forgiveness works because you allow yourself to let go. That's the impact of forgiveness. How the other party will react, is a different thing. But internally, when we forgive someone, especially sometimes when the person is no longer around, sometimes people have not fractious relationships with their relatives or their loved ones, and then suddenly something happens and the person is no longer around. How do you overcome, say, if you feel injustice has been done to you? So forgiveness is a really excellent way. I'll tell you a story, okay, which I've told before. Alan says important factor is the ability to let go, to have happiness. Yes, so that's where forgiveness comes in, or repentance and remorse. It depends on who you see is at fault, whether you're at fault or you blame the other party, or what's going on. There's I'll name his name because I have permission from him. He's Phil Hirsch. He's in the City of 10,000 Buddhas. I think he's maybe about close to 90 years old right now. When he was about 70 or 80 plus, he learned how to sit in full lotus. So Phil, he's a Caucasian, he's American. Phil had a bad relationship with his mom. When he grew up, he told me his mom abused him physically. And so he found it, he had a very, I'm looking for the word to describe that kind of relationship. His relationship with his mother was not harmonious at all. But Phil meditates. And so one day, Phil had this encounter, a state in his meditation. He was looking down at the old English town, and he said that he could see people lighting the street lamps with fire. I think it was one of those gas or oil street lamps, meaning it was a long time ago. And it was snowing. And he saw this young woman carrying a newborn baby. And this young woman knocked on the door of a huge house. And an old man, the door opened and an old man answered the door. When the old man saw the young woman holding the baby, he slammed the door in the young woman's face, and the young woman walked away with the head down low. He said at that moment, he understood, he just knew that the man who slammed the door was him, and that young lady was his daughter, and his daughter had a baby out of wedlock, which was a huge no-no, which would have been a huge scandal at that time. And Phil said he knew also that he was a famous composer or musician at that time. He had a reputation. So he had to choose between his reputation or his daughter, and he chose his reputation. He could not accept that the shame the daughter would bring, the stain the daughter would bring to the family. And instantly he understood why his mother treated him this way now. So he said he picked up the phone, and the mother was still alive in a nursing care home in Florida. He picked up the phone, called his mother, and said he was sorry. And the mother said, "Oh, why are you saying sorry?" He said, "Oh, it's because," he said, "No, just for all the things I've done." So with wisdom, meaning the wisdom from his state, his meditative state, his karmic seed came up, which is a memory from his past life. He realized he was responsible for why his mother was had so much hatred towards him in this present life. So that's cause and effect, which is why in the Jataka tales, the Buddha is always explaining things in the Jataka tales. Oh, this person is like this because why in the previous life he did this, or they are fighting because in the previous life they did this, or they're husband and wife in this life because in 500 previous lifetime they were always husband and wife. The Buddha is always explaining the importance of cause and effect. Okay, so when without being able to have states like field state, where we can actually see cause and effect in action, that's where faith or confidence in the Dharma comes in. Like Shofu saying, nothing happens by chance. Everything happens as a result of what you have done in the past. You treat people badly in the past, well, in this life, when you get treated badly, you will know why. Your answer is because you did it, you deserve it. Not you deserve it, no, we can't say that, although it's accurate, but when something bad happens to people, we can't tell them they deserve it, no, because that's a topic for another day, okay? When people have misfortune happen to them, it would be wrong in the Dharma to tell these people that, oh, it's because you did something in the past, now you deserve it, and also to use that to condone people doing any unwholesome deed. That's not the point of understanding cause effect, okay? Understanding cause effect is about not doing unwholesome deeds. And when things happen to us that we are not happy about, to use the wisdom of the Dharma to develop patience, to overcome whatever difficulties we have, instead of reacting with anger or injustice or revenge and all those feelings. So forgiveness is an excellent way to overcome whatever it is that's holding us back. All right, everyone's different. Sometimes forgiveness works, sometimes forgiveness for yourself. Whatever it is, as long as it's based on the Dharma and it allows you to to become a better person. Okay, not ignore things, or if you have fault, you don't ignore it. You should rectify the fault, but to overcome the lack of happiness. All right. Okay, now coming to Melinda's second question. Melinda asked about sutra books. Can you bring it into washroom? For example, for sutras, they are in a handphone. Okay, so Freddie has answered this in the chat group. I hope everyone else will also share their thoughts in the WhatsApp group. Okay, so it's very easy for physical sutras, an actual printed copy of the sutra. Of course, you don't want the reflection of our sincerity is that you don't want to take it into places, not just the washroom, but you don't want it to get dirty or to get damaged. Okay, Ron, I know you have to leave. Okay, bye-bye. And so it's fine. But if you extend the principle, okay, like for example, on your phone, on your computer, and let's say you delete a file on your phone, what happens? Well, this is where understanding cause and effect comes into play. The Buddha, when he talked about karma, he said karma is intention. If you accidentally break something, don't worry about it. Why? Because you did not intend to break. So when you, for example, if you mistake a cup for your own cup and you take it and then you realize, oh, it's not actually your cup. You don't break the precept against stealing. Why? Because you did not intend. Your heart wasn't intent on stealing something. It was a mistake. Okay? So we cannot judge people based on their actions. That's very important. Okay? Because two people can be doing the same thing. Their hearts can be totally different. All right? But on the surface, you can't see. Okay? So Buddhism, that's why in Buddhism, the Bodhisattvas, they don't judge. You cannot judge people in Buddhism, although we do it all the time, which is not good. Anyway, okay? So it all comes down to your intention. Okay, when you delete something, what is your intention? Is your heart, oh, I'm destroying this sutra so no one else can read it? Of course it's not good. Of course it's not good. But you delete it because why? You're running out of space on your phone and you know that you have a physical copy at home, or you can you have a copy on your computer, and when you need, you're still there and no harm is being done, especially in your heart, then it's fine. Because, okay, why is very important. Oh, we're really running out of time. Okay, I'll do this quick. Because it's very important to realize that a printed sutra, from the point of view of someone who's awakened, a printed sutra is just a conditioned phenomena. It's impermanent. It's made out of ink, paper, which is all made up of other things as well. Like the story of Bodhidharma and the second patriarch of China, it says the sutra that you're explaining, the words, this is the monk that was explaining until the heavenly flowers rain down from the heaven and the lotuses bloom from the ground. Now, so Bodhidharma told him, he said, this sutra that you explain, the words are black, the paper is white. How does this teach people to end birth and death? Because anything that can be put in a conditioned state is not the true Dharma. The true Dharma is unconditioned. Once you put it into words, once you put it into language, once you put it in a concept or idea, it becomes removed. It's a shadow of the actual Dharma. It's no longer the Dharma. Okay? Now, the thing is this. Although the printed sutra in front of you is, it's just a representation. Before you get enlightened, okay, before we get enlightened, we need the Dharma. Okay, and how useful or beneficial the Dharma is going to be to you will be reflected by your sincerity and respect towards the Dharma. Because why? We are still conditioned ourselves. Our existence is still conditioned. We mistake the condition for the true. All right. There are many stories that explain the importance of the Dharma. For example, the Buddha in his past life, he was willing to give up his life for a single verse of the Dharma. First he write it, he wrote it on, I think on the tree or something. He ended up carving it on a rock. Why? Because he wanted other people to benefit from it, and was willing to give up his life after he had done that. And if you have heard of the raft analogy, the raft metaphor or simile in the Dharma, what is a raft simile? The Buddha says, as you're crossing the river, you need the raft. Why? Because if you don't hold on to the raft and you fall off the raft, you're going to drown. But once you cross the sea or the river, you don't need the raft anymore. You don't walk carrying it on the head. Why? Because it's stupid. You just know you don't need the raft anymore. You already crossed the sea. What is the raft? The raft is the Dharma. What is the sea that we're crossing? The sea of suffering, when we're trying to end birth and death. So as you're trying to end birth and death, okay, you're not enlightened yet, you want to hold on to the Dharma for your dear life. Okay, but you don't want to create an attachment, a wrong attachment to the Dharma. Okay, the Buddha, in another sutra, the Buddha talks about holding a snake. The Buddha says if you hold the snake wrong, the snake will turn around and bite you. But if you hold the snake right, it's very safe. You say if you hold the snake just behind the head or at the head, the snake cannot do anything to you. Okay, but if you hold it by the tail, if it's a venomous snake, the snake will turn around and you're going to be in for a very bad time. So in other words, the Buddha says your attachment to the Dharma must be based on an understanding of the Dharma itself. Why? Because if your attachment is wrong, you get some people, they put the Dharma on a altar. Every day they bow to the sutra, okay? But they don't read the sutra or investigate the sutra. That's what it means, wrong attachment. Or the monk who recited the Lotus Sutra 3,000 times, but still was arrogant, that's wrong attachment. Okay? So we want to strike a balance, but it has to be based on wisdom. It has to be based on an understanding of the Dharma and an understanding on cause and effect. So we want to be respectful of the sutras, but at the same time, we also want to understand the principle of cause and effect, and when do we create an offense or when do we not create an offense, so it doesn't become superstitious. Okay, bringing beads into the toilet is fine. Beads by themselves, there were no beads during the Buddha's time, maybe in other religions during the Buddha's time, so don't get attached to that. And don't get to the other extreme where the object itself or the sutra itself becomes the object of veneration instead of allowing you to transform yourself. And that's wrong as well. Okay, I'm so sorry for taking up so much time. I really wanted to end early today. So let me quickly, and then if you have any questions, we'll come back to that next week. Okay. All right, now, we are going to use a different form of transference of merit. Okay, it's called reflection on sharing blessings. This is what they do at Abhayagiri, which is the temple, the Thai forest tradition temple built on the land in California that Shofu donated to them. Okay, through the goodness that arises from my practice, may my spiritual teachers and guides of great virtue, my mother, my father, and my relatives, the sun and the moon, and all virtuous leaders of the world, may the highest gods and evil forces, celestial beings, guardian spirits of the earth, and the Lord of Death, may those who are friendly, indifferent, or hostile, may all beings receive the blessings of my life. May they soon attain the threefold bliss and realize the deathless, through the goodness that arises from my practice, and through this act of sharing, May all desires and attachments quickly cease and all harmful states of mind. Until I realize Nibbana or Nirvana, in every kind of birth, may I have an upright mind in mindfulness and wisdom, austerity and vigor. May the forces of delusion not take hold nor weaken my resolve. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. Unsurpassed is the protection of the Dharma. The solitary Buddha is my noble Lord. The Sangha is my supreme. Through the same power of all this, may darkness and delusion be dispelled. Okay, I don't have my hand bell, so we're just going to do 3 bows to the Buddha. With the hand bell, first bow, second bow, third bow, half bow. Bowing respect to the Realm Buddha Master. First bow, second bow, third bow, half bow. Okay, Amitofo everyone. I'm so happy you all are here today. We'll see you all next week.